Open RAN has become a very hot topic in the past 12 to 18 months, but Mavenir has been talking about its potential and developing products for more than 4 years already. To find out what the company thinks of current market trends and how it's positioning itself in a sector increasingly open to disaggregated network architectures, I'm talking today with Stefano Cantarelli, Chief Marketing Officer at Mavenir. So Stefano, thanks for joining us today. Mavenir's vision statement is one network, any cloud, all software. Can you tell us what this means for the company and for the industry in general?
Sure, Ray. Thank you very much for this question. You said yourself, Mavenir has been talking for a long time about Open RAN, but more in general has been talking about a vision of a single network which is cloudified, so based on any cloud, and it's all software. And this has been our vision for quite a long time, but at the very early days, we had to attract the attention on some of the key benefits. You remember we were about transforming the network economics. Now that after 4 years, we came a long way, and we are sitting on most of all tables with the big tier one vendors. It's time now to look from a different angle. The vision is about trusting the future and go for a transformation that is really going to change the telecommunication in a way that we have never seen before. So when we look at one network, what we mean is that we want a convergent network. We don't want layer of legacy networks which are not well integrated into each other. The second thing, of course, on any cloud, we are fundamentally cloud native, which is one of the most important components of this transformation. And the cloud native can be either on a public or on a private cloud. We're seeing the different trends in the actual market. And to finalize, of course, is all software, because we believe that means agility. Without, of course, saying that we don't need the hardware. We always need hardware, but we rely on commercial off-the-shelf hardware, which our software runs on too. And this is really where it comes. So this vision, Mavenir is trying to implement it by creating the future of network with a single network, automated and all cloud native and software. That's the most important thing.
Okay, with all that in mind, I mean, we hear a lot about the need for operators to re-architect their networks. Can you tell us how cloud-native software plays a key role in enabling this transformation?
You see, networks has been built as extensions of a previous generation networks. Operators has been struggling to think how mobile broadband networks should be really being built. And what happens are two things. The first one is that up till today, a lot of the infrastructure that they have been deploying are strictly tightened between hardware and software. So these fact has actually brought some benefit at the beginning, of course, because when we were at the very early days, what has happened is that there was a need to try this technology that wasn't really in the field. We're talking about, of course, 20 years ago. But with the time, fundamentally, what happened is that a few number of vendors have been tied it in, and to some extent, they have been slowing down some of the revolutions in the space. Now, when you come up to virtualization, which is really the key technology that we are looking at in order to base the whole transformation, what happens is that you all of a sudden you disaggregate and you separate the hardware from the software. In this way, first of all, you make use of hardware which is available in very, very big volumes, so coming from IT space and so on. And in other cases, with the software instead, you bring in completely new characters in the industry, which are actually very agile in the space of writing software, which, as you know, has a completely different cycle than designing hardware. And Mavenir is one of those. And Mavenir has a very strong history in very agile software writing. And that's one of the main things that brings the operator to actually think in a different way. Now, the re-architecturing of the network is just not this, but it's also the way network needs to be deployed and needs to be provided to the actually end user. So there are capabilities like we have heard a lot with 5G, like network slicing, where you actually make use of physical resources and you are able to virtually separate capacities and capabilities in order to provide different type of services to different end user, whether those users are consumer, but also and especially in the enterprises in the industry space, because we have seen that with 5G is becoming really prevalent, this trend to look at private networks. So from that point of view, you can see how the virtualization which is the same as a cloud native, so it's the ability to put software on a standard commercial off-the-shelf hardware, is actually bringing a completely new approach. And the approach needs to end up to automation, because automation is the real ultimate goal of virtualization, where, as we said, you disaggregate hardware and software, but at the same time, you introduce all those capabilities that automation and artificial intelligence and machine learning can bring to help the human, the operators, to run the network in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Automation are really high on the list of all operator requirements and goals. And tied in with that, I mean, Open RAN seems to be on everybody's agenda. I mean, from governments to network operators to radio access network vendors and other vendors as well, of course. Can you give us your perspective of the current state of the market?
Thank you, Ray. So first of all, as you said, we have been talking about Open RAN for a long time, and we are so happy that this has gone on everywhere, not only in the industry itself, but also in the government and so on, because they understand the potential of what it could do to the economies and how to create a diversification in the supply chain, which has been a bit restricted because of several reasons in the mobile industry. So we think Open RAN is the last step, of full virtualization of the network, in the sense that virtualization has already started in the core space, but in the Open RAN has been last to come. So it's very important, because if you want to have a real 5G network, you have to have a full virtualization from head to toe, or whatever you want to say, completely. So Open RAN is ready to go. The technology has been trialed, for 2-3 years, and now it's time for deployment. We have seen some early deployment of early version of Open RAN, and now we're starting to see real Open RAN, virtualized RAN, and we call it Open vRAN. In places like, for example, Dish, which is going to launch their services later this year, and for which Mavenir is one of the main vendors. So we think the technology is ready, so it's not a question about maturity. Of course, the more you deploy, the more you learn, and so from that point of view, it's important that we keep on deploying in volume. But the other important things, which to me is the most essential one, we need to change the mindset. And we know that changing the mindset of the people is the most difficult. We need to embrace the future. We need to trust the future on building the network that are fully virtualized and cloud native and automated. That's really what I think makes a difference.
Okay, excellent. And like you say, I think we're just at the start of the next stage of Open RAN, and there's a lot more action and activity to come. Stefano, great to talk to you again today. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, Ray.